I found out an HOA had built a luxury clubhouse on my land when I pulled up to mow the grass and saw a concrete truck parked on my grandfather's property. Like it paid taxes there, and I'm not talking a little shed over the line. I mean a full-blown premium residence lounge with a barstone fireplace and pizza oven. By the time I got out of my truck, I was looking at about 150 grand in construction crossing my property line, like private ownership was just a suggestion. And the wildest part, their HOA president looked me in the eye and basically told me I should be grateful. Yeah, that happened. So let me back up a sec because this only gets funnier the more you know. I own a 1-acre lot in what used to be a quiet, semi-rural area about 40 minutes outside the city. My grandfather bought it in the 1970s for next to nothing back when it was just fields and wind and dirt roads. He always said he'd build a little retirement cabin there one day, but life happened, then time happened, and he never did. It passed to my dad, then to me, and I kept it partly as an investment, partly because it was one of the last things that still felt like family. About a dozen years ago, a developer bought up everything around it, hundreds of acres, and built one of those polished suburban kingdoms with oversized homes, decorative street lamps, a pool, a clubhouse, the whole brochure. Property values shot up. They tried to buy my grandfather's lot more than once, offered decent money too, but he was stubborn in that old school way I've come to admire more with age. He said no every time, so they built around it. That left my lot sitting in the middle of this fancy development like a missing tooth, and the HOA hated that. For years they sent me violation notices, even though I was never a member. Grass too long, wildflowers, unsightly natural patch in the back corner, inconsistent with community standards, all that suburban dictatorship poetry. Every time I'd write "not a member" across the letter in red marker and drop it back in their office mailbox. They couldn't do a thing. My deed was older than their whole neighborhood. I live about 2 hours away for work, so I only come out once a month to mow check the markers, make sure nobody's getting creative with my boundaries. Late April, perfect spring Saturday, I rolled in expecting birds and fresh-cut grass. Instead, I saw a construction site, concrete trucks, framing crew, lumber stacked up, men in hard hats moving like they were on a deadline. And right there on my land was a massive slab, already poured, stretching from the HOA community center and crossing onto my property by at least 15 feet. Now, in that moment, every part of me wanted to go full movie scene and start screaming. But construction crews don't make those decisions, and I knew it. So I took a breath, walked over, calm, found the foreman, older guy, sun-baked, face, clipboard voice like gravel, and asked what they were building. He looked at me like I'd just asked what water was and said, real proud, "New premium resident lounge, outdoor kitchen too, bar, pizza oven, fireplace, whole thing." I asked who approved it. He said HOA board. Then he went back to yelling about rebar. I didn't say another word. I just started taking pictures, a lot of pictures. Slab equipment, survey markers, trucks, crew angles from every side. Then I saw the jackpot blueprint sitting on a tailgate. I got photos of those too. Property line marked clear as day. And their building crossing it like they were daring someone to notice. Foreman asked what I was doing. I smiled and said documenting community improvements for my records. He shrugged. That man had no idea he was helping me build a case. From there, I drove straight to the HOA office. Front desk tried to give me the usual appointment dance. I said I'd wait. 20 minutes later, out comes the board president, mid-50s, polished, expensive, casual clothes, smile sharp enough to cut glass. The kind of smile that says she's used to getting her way and calling it leadership. I told her I was there about the construction on my property. That smile disappeared so fast it almost made me laugh. She took me into her office, sat down, folded her hands, and in the most condescending tone imaginable, explained that the board had voted to expand the community center for the good of the residents. Then she called my lot an eyesore and said it was finally being put to use in a way that would benefit everyone, including me, because it would improve my property value. I told her that was fascinating, except she had built on land she didn't own. She laughed, actually laughed. Then she started throwing around nonsense legal phrases, something about implied easement and greater good of the community, like she'd skimmed a Facebook post written by a fake lawyer. I said that's not how property rights work and construction needed to stop immediately. She waved her hand at me, literally waved me off. Then she said the community had tolerated my neglected lot long enough the project was moving forward, and if I was smart, I'd accept reality. She even hinted that maybe Maybe if I behaved, they'd let me use the lounge when it was finished. I sat there a second just looking at her because sometimes a person says something so arrogant your brain needs a second to process the audacity. Then I stood up, thanked her for her time, and left. And then I called a real estate attorney. He listened to the whole thing and said, "This is one of the cleanest trespass and encroachment cases I've seen in years." Then he said something beautiful. He could stop them right away, sure. Or we could let them keep spending money while we documented everything and made the consequences a lot more educational. I liked him instantly. We sent a formal cease and desist by certified mail. Clear language. No wiggle room, stop construction, remove all materials and structures from my property, or face legal action. They got it on Wednesday. By Friday, their lawyer sent back a chest-thumping response claiming my lot fell under HOA jurisdiction due to negligent maintenance and threatening to annex my property into the HOA. They also accused me of harassment for interfering with community improvements. My attorney read that letter and laughed so hard he had to set it down. So I did exactly what he told me to do. I let them keep going. The next weekend, construction was moving even faster. Framing up, stone veneer walls, fireplace built out, stainless steel outdoor kitchen installed. By late May, this thing looked like a magazine spread, fancy bar, commercial-grade pizza oven, premium finishes, all the bells and whistles. I'm standing there taking photos thinking, you people really built a monument to your own lawsuit. I went back to the board president one more time, mostly to give her every chance to save herself. She was smug, told me I'd missed my opportunity to be reasonable, and asked if I'd consider selling the lot now that it was partially developed. I asked if she was absolutely sure she wanted to continue with a building on land she didn't own. She said there was nothing I could do. That was my favorite part of the whole year. I went home, called my attorney, and said I'm ready. Next morning, I hired a licensed surveyor and told him I wanted high-visibility markers placed along the exact property line. Not the little metal pins nobody sees. I wanted neon pink posts tall enough to spot from orbit. The survey crew came out and set them dead on the line. A few of those markers went straight through the HOA's brand new clubhouse. One stood right in the middle of their stone fireplace, one through the bar area. Another split the outdoor kitchen layout like a pink exclamation point from God. Now here's the twist they never saw coming: timing. They had scheduled their grand opening for Memorial Day weekend. Ribbon-cutting decorations, neighborhood posts, all of it. Big show, lots of photos. The board president was about to have her little victory lap. So I waited until Friday afternoon. First call county building inspector. I reported a structure built on my property without permission and likely without valid permits for that location. They said someone could come out Monday morning. Second call a fencing company. I asked for an emergency weekend install and offered premium pay. Owner sounded hesitant until I explained the situation. Then he started laughing and said, "Oh, we're doing this." Saturday morning at 7 a.m., his crew rolled in with a truck full of materials. I walked them to the survey markers and said, "Run the fence exactly on this line." For 6 straight hours, they installed a 10-foot industrial chain link fence, the kind you see around impound lots and construction yards right down my property line, right through the middle of the HOA clubhouse. When they finished, roughly 40% of that shiny new premium resident lounge was trapped behind my fence on private property. The outdoor kitchen on my side, half the bar on my side, access to big parts of the structure. Gone. I added bright red, no trespassing signs every 10 feet for flavor. Grand opening was supposed to start at 2. I parked on the street and watched. Around noon, people started showing up to decorate. One board member turned the corner, saw the fence, and froze like somebody had unplugged him. Mouth open, arms hanging, just staring. Then he started yelling for others. Within minutes, there was a crowd, people pointing, shouting, phones out, total chaos. Then the board president arrived. I wish I could frame that moment. Her face went through every shade of red available to human skin. She started screaming at the fence crew who, to their credit, didn't even look at her, just kept tightening posts and packing dirt. She got on the phone, pacing, flailing, doing that thing people do when reality won't obey them. By 1 o'clock, the ribbon cutting was canceled. Decorations came down. Neighbors stood around angry and confused. And for the first time, a lot of them seemed to realize maybe the person running their HOA was not the genius she thought she was. Monday morning, the county inspector showed up, and my attorney met him there with property records and survey documents. Inspector took one look, checked the markers, reviewed the deed history, snapped his own photos, and posted a stop work order on the accessible portion of the structure. Not long after, the HOA's attorney arrived and had what looked from a distance like a very uncomfortable conversation with my lawyer. That week, we sued trespass, property damage, permanent encroachment, the works. We included everything: photos, survey records, the cease and desist they ignored, and their lawyer's ridiculous response letter. They tried to fight it with community benefit arguments and all the same fake legal nonsense. Didn't matter. A few months later, we were in court. The judge reviewed the evidence, asked the HOA attorney one simple question: did they have any legal basis to build on someone else's property? He danced around it. Judge asked again. Finally, he admitted no. Game over. The judge ruled in my favor across the board, ordered them to remove everything from my land, restore it, pay damages, and cover my legal fees. And because they'd kept building after receiving my cease and desist, the court treated it as willful, not accidental. That meant no honest mistake shield, no sympathy. And here's the sweetest part. Because the structure was designed as one connected build, the court ordered the entire thing demolished. Not just the part on my property, all of it. I drove out in October to watch demolition. 3 days, that's all it took to erase 6 months of arrogance. The total hit: demolition, land restoration, damages, legal fees, landed way north of what they wanted to admit, on top of the original construction cost. Their reserve fund got gutted. Then came the special assessment. Dues shot up. Homeowners lost their minds. By winter, the neighborhood meetings were apparently pure chaos, yelling demands for resignations, people asking why no one verified the property line before spending everyone's money. By January, the entire board was gone. The president, who told me there was nothing I could do, she ended up selling her house. And me. My lot is back to grass and wildflowers, exactly how I like it, except now there's a fence and a sign near the road that says private property, not an HOA member, have a nice day. Best $200 I ever spent. What this whole mess taught me, and this is the part that stuck with me, is that power makes some people sloppy. They get so used to being obeyed, they forget the difference between authority and ownership. They start treating other people's rights like obstacles instead of limits. My grandfather understood something I didn't fully appreciate until this happened. Sometimes the most valuable thing you own isn't the land itself. It's the fact that nobody else gets to decide what happens on it. I still go out there once a month and mow. Some neighbors wave now. A few have even thanked me because apparently that lawsuit forced the community to clean house in more ways than one. The old building site on their side is just grass and a little bench now entirely on their property line, which I'm sure they measured 12 times. And every time I see that wildflower patch blooming bigger than ever, I think my grandfather would have laughed himself silly. So yeah, HOA built a luxury clubhouse on my land, ignored warnings, bullied the wrong person, and ended up paying to demolish their own masterpiece. Karma didn't just knock, it brought survey flags, a chain link fence, and a court order. Now, I'm curious what you think. If someone knowingly abuses power and ignores the law, is letting them suffer the full consequences justice or revenge with better paperwork? Drop your take in the comments. And if you've ever dealt with an HOA, a boundary fight, or a neighbor who thought rules only applied to other people, tell your story too. I want to hear it.